Actually, I got to tell you what I was thinking about. I had two of my granddaughters in the car yesterday, and we had just eaten at the house, and we're in the car, and we're driving down the road, and my oldest granddaughter, I think she's 9, she, Grandpa, I'm hungry. And I said, well, Carissa, we just ate. I'm hungry. My stomach hurts. I'm hungry. I said, well, Carissa, okay. And every time we would go past that, Arch Place or whatever, the burger, whatever, we go past it, And so I said, Carissa, we just ate. She said, I can't help it, Grandpa. I'm hungry. I'm so hungry. She said, I want a Mighty Happy Meal. I want a Mighty Meal for kids. I want a Mighty Meal for kids. I got to have one. So I drive to the next town, and there's another one of those Arch Place things. And so I go through the drive-thru, and I said, what would you like? She said, well, I'd like a Mighty Meal for a boy. And I said, well, you're a girl. She said, I know, but I want a Mighty Meal for a boy. I said, well, do you want the hamburger or the chicken thing? It doesn't matter, Grandpa. Just get me a Mighty Meal for a boy. Well, last night I found the French fries and the hamburger still sitting in the back seat, but the toy was missing. Yeah. And those French fries, they still looked good. Mold will not grow on those things. I don't know if you ever, you can find one under the floor mat that's been there from the previous car owner and put it in a little thing and mix it up. You can't tell the difference. The only way you could maybe not find it is if it's cold and the others aren't. Which reminds me of something totally off the subject, and I hope that this gentleman's not watching. Well, if he is, maybe it'll be a good revelation for him. But there was a guy that worked for me about 25 years ago. And every day he would bring his lunch. His wife would buy one of these big sacks of these orange little pebbly things, kind of like cheese crunch things. Look like little fluffy things, they're about that long. And so she would buy like the big super bag, and then she would put them into a smaller bag and put them in his lunch box every day. And so every day this guy would have lunch, and when he was done with lunch, his fingers would all be orange, and he'd be orange all around his mouth, until he'd go wash it off. But he was known for eating these orange cheese curls. Well, one day I was back in the parts department, and I was unloading some marine parts, and I was dumping over a box, and these little styrofoam things that looked like cheese curls, but they were white, fell out. And I'm looking at those, and I thought, man, this would be kind of an interesting thing to do. So I took about 8 or 10 of them. I put them up on the workbench. And marine gas cans are kind of like a reddish orange type. And we had some spray paint for marine gas cans. So I laid them up there, and I just kind of dusted them. Then I turned each one of them over, and kind of dusted them. And I let them dry. Okay. So I waited until he was out on a service call. And so then I went back to the service department, and I unzipped his cheese curl thing, and I took about 8 or 10 of these, because he had maybe like 40 in there. I took about 8 or 10, which would maybe be a fifth of them or something. And I put them in there, zipped it up, and shook it. And look at it, you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell which ones were what. So I set them there. Well, later in the day, he comes in from his service call, and he's going to eat lunch. And I go back to eat lunch with him, and I'm going to sit there. And as soon as he puts one of those pieces of styrofoam with paint on it in his mouth, as soon as he puts one in his mouth and starts chewing on that styrofoam, I'm going to laugh, and we're going to have a big joke. So I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to him. And he's eating. And next thing I know, he's done. And he rolls it, and he throws it away. And I'm just now telling him.